12 p.m. on April 27th, 2026. I call to order this first meeting of the Communications Subcommittee. All citizens are welcome to attend public meetings in person. If you want to view the live meeting remotely, you are encouraged to watch the live stream on the Franklin Town Hall TV YouTube channel or the live broadcast on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29. To listen to the meeting remotely, citizens may call in using the number 1-929-205-6099. If you want to participate in the meeting remotely, you may join the Zoom webinar using the information, the Zoom webinar ID number 889-8251-9099, or the link is on the agenda on our website. If you want to speak during the webinar, you must enter your full name and email address and use the raise hand function to request to be unmuted. All right, let's jump into it. So this is the first meeting of the Communications Subcommittee, and I'd like to start by introducing ourselves. We have our fourth subcommittee member is on Zoom as well. So we have three of us here live and one on Zoom, and we will we'll go down the line. Councilor Morrongiello, would you like to start?
Yes, my name is Max Morrongiello. Happy to be here, and I think we have a lot of good stuff to talk about today, so that's good. So
awesome. And I'm Caroline Griffith, and I'm excited to be heading up this meeting as the Communications Chair.
Jane Callaway-Tripp, Vice Chair, and I look forward to seeing how this meeting progresses and we can really get some information out to people and they don't have to try to hunt to find things.
And Councilor Grella on Zoom.
Hi, Councilor Gene Grella, and I'll say town councilor, and looking forward to being involved in this community. This is something that's obviously really important. Not only to communicate, but it's important to me that we do a better job of communicating, I think, in the future, and because I think it's so important to just how we move things along through town. So, thank you.
Thank you. And then I would like to give Liz, our Director of Communications and Community Engagement, an opportunity to introduce herself. I know that we have mentioned her many times in council meetings, but I don't know that she's had an opportunity to introduce herself to the town yet. So I'd like to give Liz that opportunity now.
Thank you, Caroline. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Kalaijian. I am the Communications Director and the Director of Community Engagement for the town. I'm also acting as the Communications Subcommittee Liaison, and I'm really excited to be here. Of course, my title says it all, Communications Director, so I'm excited to kind of set some goals for ourselves and identify, where we can really communicate further and what we want to do in this subcommittee to really enhance communications throughout the town and for residents specifically. But yes, I also have next man, Julie McCann, who's the operations manager for the town. She'll be with us throughout this meeting.
All right, awesome. Thank you both. Before we jump into talking about, I guess we're going to start by talking about the goals, but I just wanted to say, I know this is called the Communications Subcommittee. I feel like the kind of other half of that coin is the community engagement, right? It's not necessarily listed in our title, but I think that is, the communications piece is, how does the town government, town official side engage with the town residents and vice versa, and I think that includes community engagement. So as we talk about goals, I kind of not necessarily think about just how we're sharing information, but how we're engaging with the town residents. I think is that's at least how I'm looking at it as well. So I'm curious to hear what you all think, how you're all feeling about that as well. I know I have a couple of ideas and goals for this committee, but I'd really like to hear, I'd like to start by hearing what you all think, what you're feeling you'd like to see come out of this subcommittee, ways that you think, or opportunities for us to improve our communication and engagement with the town residents. And then maybe we can brainstorm some specific ideas on how to achieve those goals. Max, do you have anything you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. First I want to start off, it's kind of a sort of somber kind of I think one of the most important things we have to figure out is how do we frame our communications as a town, and I think it's important to understand the backdrop of sort of what the town has gone through over the past few years. And I think part of it, I mean, we just went through a pandemic, and I think people are kind of still a little freaked out about that. And then we have, the current stuff at the federal level, which I think a lot of people are concerned about. I think we have sort of this climate of fear, and where people are concerned that their children might not have the same opportunities that they had. And so I think that a lot of the angst and trouble that people are having is they're responding out of this knee-jerk reaction to, we're not sure. There's a fear response, and we're kind of all scared, and we don't want to acknowledge it. We're kind of in denial about it. And I think that our communications has to be responsive to this idea that people are jittery right now, and people aren't necessarily thinking. I mean, I think there's a lot of rational fear, but there's a lot of irrational fear as well. And so we have to, when we frame our communications, we have to be mindful of what the problem is with sort of the town and how people are reacting to certain things. I think that a lot of the concerns around the battery proposal, I think there might be some legitimate concerns about that. I think there was a flame that sort of sparked sort of that dry tinder that kind of spread like wildfire. So being able to understand the problem with communications. The other things I'd like to bring up, and these are more of less philosophical, is the idea of misinformation. There's a lot of misinformation on Facebook, and how are we going to, as well as other media platforms, blogs and so forth, and how do we combat that? How do we point people to legitimate sources, the town website, town communications, Franklin Matters, and I think that, try to rein in some of that misinformation. Part of that is, I think, having the FAQ page. We get a lot of questions from constituents that a lot of times are duplicative, or there might be rumors on Facebook, and instead of engaging with them on Facebook, having that posted on a FAQ page and saying, hey, this is where you can get information about that. I do think after we have the rate setting process for fees, being able to advertise, I have this idea of a big book of savings. A lot of people concerned about the override or a potential override and the effect that would have on ratepayers. But being able to promote, if you're low income, or even if you're not low income, different savings opportunities that you might have. Like if you get a smaller trash bin, you could actually save money. Everyone could do that if you own a home. So being able to put something like that out, getting out into the community, engaging at the farmers market, the strawberry strolls, those kinds of things. As well as not just communication, but civic engagement, actually having people bring stuff back to us as a council, or information that they have on the budget. I think specifically the budget, I have not received a single email with regards to the budget. No one said anything. No one has any comments on it to me as a counselor. And I think that's kind of like, what? This is a big thing. I also had feedback from a school committee member, not the whole school committee, but just one of the members, that maybe it would be appropriate to have a school committee member liaison from their communications subcommittee, so we could kind of coordinate our responses together as a group. Having best practices for counselors on social media, or just in general, as how to engage constituents, so we don't shoot ourselves in the foot when responding to people. As well as, I don't know if we have a policy with regard to paid reach, with regards to advertising or that kind of thing, and I don't know if we have a budget for that, but it might be something we want to debate if we want to push sort of our information further. So that's the list I have. I might come up with more as I go, but I think that's enough for me for now. So I'll pass it on to Jane, if that's okay with the chair.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love some of these ideas. I thought of a couple of them myself, and I'd like to circle back to them. Some of those are new ideas to me, and I think those are really great. I think we should kind of come back kind of after we hear sort of from the start what we're all thinking, kind of come back and hash some of those out. So thank you, Max. All right, Jane, what about you?
Thank you. I don't quite have as much as Max got out there. Man, you are busy. I think from the communication standpoint, I come from very simplistics. In the last year and a half, 2 years, we have come for a town that has literally had nothing but distrust for everybody who ran it, whether it was from school departments to the town hall. It didn't matter where you were, they don't trust us. That is it. They didn't trust the council, 9%. I think the communication subcommittee goal, it has to be twofold. We have to get out information to residents that they wouldn't necessarily be able to get to on themselves. And as someone, even as a counselor, who still struggles with the website, it's very hard to find. Case in point, you type in budget, 500 links come up, and it's never the first one. So you're going, trying to find what you want. Making it simplified for people to find that information is going to be key. But information on everything, whether it's from budget to what's happening in the town, the whole 9 yards. The second thing is, I think it's really important to find out what it is residents are feeling they're not getting in communication. What is it they're looking for from us so that they can feel secure in what we're giving them? Because we can put out everything on social media or in letters, news, whatever, and if it's not something for, like, it could be the trash, it could be the snowstorm, it could be the budget, that's all good things, but we could be missing key things that residents need to know. I think one thing we could do is maybe put up something to get people, I hate saying surveys, but just to kind of as a case in point, what it is that they want from us as far as communication. Because if we don't know what they want, then we are going to have a hard time trying to give it to them. What are the key points they feel are most important for them to get from us? And we should try to wrap it around there, because I think the goal for communication has to be not only us communicating to residents, but residents communicating to us, and on this scale, we will gain trust back, and we can then work as an actual town versus town council, municipality, school department, and residents, because we're all one and the same. So we have to somehow unify everything so we're all on the same playing field, even when we disagree on certain topics. And basically that's what I think is the most important thing with the communication subcommittee. I think that's where we really need to focus. And that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you, Jane. Gene, how about you?
That was a lot, Jane. You did have a lot. So that's excellent.
Thank you.
I don't have as much. I can make a couple of points that I think that is true. And I think having gone through like an election last fall, I think we learned a lot about communications and how to do effective communications, at least with reaching out to the public. And so a couple of things that I think it's true what Jane says is that we need to look at getting a sense of where the town is, right? If there's a sense of, like she said, maybe distrust in the town, how do they feel about it? Some sort of survey, some sort of feedback that we can get from the residents. But the second part of it, and this is what I learned from kind of the election process, is that we didn't, we wanted to communicate something. We didn't just say, okay, well, we're going to go, we'll meet at the school, or we'll go here, or we'll go. We went to where the communication was already happening. We kind of showed up, right? So we showed up at the, on the Fridays at the, I'm sorry, I always get this wrong. What do we call it Friday?
Farmers Market.
Farmers Market.
Farmers Market, yeah. So I always say like Farmers Festivals. Right, we went to the farmers market. We met there. We kind of, maybe we surprised people because we stopped and we had these chats and we had these conversations with them, and that was excellent. Or we went to Facebook. We didn't go to like a special Facebook forum. We went to like forums that were already out there. People already have conversation about everyday sorts of things. So I think part of effective communication will be kind of just go where the communication is happening, because I think people in their day-to-day life, they don't really, say, oh yeah, what's going on in the town? Let me go to the town website and figure that out, right? I don't think they really think about us all that much, except that, if down the road, say we had to come up, we had to announce, oh, we want to do an override, oh, they're going to pay attention to that, You know what I mean? But at that point, you know, we're communicating kind of at the last minute. We need to be communicating what's going on and get everybody a general sense of what's going on in the town budget. So yeah, people don't attend the, you know, maybe attend the budget meetings. So we have to kind of do a good job, I think, of communicating what's happening in the budget meetings, but communicate that in a place where they'll be listening. They'll be like, oh, that'll grab their attention. It's like, oh yeah, okay, because I am interested. You know, people are interested in the budget, right? They're just not thinking about it. It's not front and center in their mind. They don't even know maybe that a budget process is going on. So that's where I think, like you said, I think part of our strategy should be. I'll sum it up here. Twofold. One is I would like to get a sense of where people are at as far as doing a survey. But the second thing is communicate where the people are. I'll end it at that.
Thank you, Gene. Did you want to say?
Oh no, I'll go back when you're ready. But
Well, why don't you?
Okay.
Go ahead, you got it.
No, I just had a few more things. One thing was how we frame things as a town. You know, that we are trying to do things to make things more efficient and make lives better for the residents. You know, always keeping that frame in mind, and not just the public, but also how the council and leadership of the town is communicating to employees. Because we always think about the public, but the morale is very important in this organization. And I've learned as a counselor that what you say as a counselor could have trickle-down effects to how people feel as an employee. So I just think that should be taken into account too. And then finally, I just had this idea. It was when I was in student government back in the day, I had this thing called wine and cheese. So it's like, you talk with seniors or whoever about stuff, and you have, sparkling water, and you have little crackers and cheese, and just a way to get people's feedback so people can whine about their issues.
I love that.
Did you actually have wine?
No, it was a college campus, so we couldn't have real wine, but we had sparkling water or something, sparkling grape juice.
Right, well,
Imagine how the comments would have changed if it were alcohol, if it were wine. Awesome, thank you, Max. I feel like the things that I had that I wanted to mention, I've heard a lot of kind of the same threads here. So first thing I'm going to say is kind of piggyback off of what Gene was just saying was I think what's really important is to meet the people, the residents, the employees, whatever, meet them where they are, right? And so not just like physically, I do think that we should have a presence at things like the Strawberry Stroll and Harvest Festival and places where people who are already milling around can come and talk, but also where they are, virtually, right? So we have a lot of great information on the town website. We have a lot of great information even on our town social media pages, but I know that for me, I follow all of those town pages, and I still get my information from other places before those posts kind of come across my feed. And I don't know if it's just that I'm maybe not interacting with them enough, and I'm interacting at other places, and that's why they're pushed down. But if people aren't seeing, the notices from the DPW or whatever it is front and center, they're getting that information from the neighborhood Facebook pages. And so I think kind of meeting them, as Gene said, like being where the conversations are happening. I know probably ideally we would be in a situation where like we're not all engaging on Facebook. I don't think that's likely to happen, because I know that especially like the four of us on this subcommittee, I think we all have a presence on social media, and we all did before we were elected. I think that's part of the reason that we are on town council, is because we were engaging with people where those conversations were happening. I think there's something to be said for having those kind of social media best practices and ways to make sure that as a council or town officials, we're not kind of putting out our own opinions and making it sound like that is town policy. But I think that, again, being part of the conversation, I think there's an opportunity there. I'm going to come back to that in a second, because I did have an idea for that. But also, in terms of meeting people where they are, I think there's also that kind of figurative meeting people where they are. I've had a couple conversations, even in the last couple of weeks. Someone came up to me the other day, and this person is like incredibly intelligent, works in the private financial sector, so knows all about budgets and everything. But was asking me a question about overrides, and he was like, why would we need overrides when our home values are increasing, by $50,000, every month, then you're raising our taxes by 2.5% every month or every year. And I was like, well, that's not exactly how that works, right? Like your tax rate actually decreased. And anyway, and so even if we're having or creating how does local government work? Like a 30-second or 60-second quick video on some of those topics that come up. And even if it's just us sitting here, maybe talking to, if it's about the override, talking to Carrie and, someone, we're talking about budgets and here's a 30-second, 60-second video of here's high level how it works so people can see that. And that can be shared when those conversations are happening, something like that. I also had a thought about when we are on Facebook or social media or wherever it is, having something that is created that's kind of ready to go, that sums up my initial thought was, and I had mentioned this to Liz, and I think she's kind of working on drafting up a template for us, but even if we had a one-pager that is, post town council meeting, we're hey, here are the highlights of the conversations that were happening. And it's we have a template, we're just dropping things in, and here's a link to where that conversation happened, that you can get to on the YouTube recording. And so people can say hey, I know you guys had this conversation. I'm not going to sit there and watch 4 hours of a town council meeting to get to it. We can be yeah, look, here's that highlight right here, and here's that link. You can just drop it into that conversation. And on that page, you could have, a link back to our town newsletter, right? Because we have this great newsletter, but I don't know that I don't know how many people are reading it. I read it, we read it, and it was great. But if people aren't signed up for those things, or they're not going to the website to find those things, then they're not going to get it. So going to where they are, whether it's social media or wherever, and then pointing them back to those things, I think is helpful. Maybe that'll help drive, hey, I went to this little snapshot to get information on this one conversation that was had, but look, I can see at the bottom it's talking about important dates, and here's the link back to the most recent town newsletter, and you can get more information that way as well. Other thing that I had wanted to talk about was, and maybe this is kind of along the lines of your wine and cheese, but opening up some additional office hours. And I've said this before because I think that, having one a month on Thursday mornings at the senior center, first thing in the morning when it's often people are at work at that time or on their way to work, can be just really challenging. I know I've actually never been able to attend a Thursday morning senior center.
I can't either because I have to get Kinsley on a school bus. So
yeah, I'm working. I can't go then. So that limits not only the number of town councilors who can attend, or members of the town officials who can attend, but also I'm sure that town residents feel the same thing, right? In fact, I was talking to someone at the end of last week, and they said even just having them always at the senior center makes me as a non-senior feel okay, is that my space? And yes, for anyone watching this, absolutely, the office hours at the senior center, they are open to everyone. But to hear someone say I just don't know that is the place where I feel as included as maybe other people are, I would like to kind of examine the possibility of having an additional office hours, and maybe not just for town council, but maybe we can open up to school committee, right? If you're saying, hey, it's all of us, all town officials, not just pieces, maybe to school committee, maybe to FinCom when the budgets are happening, to whoever else, and kind of staggering them around town, different days, different times, different locations, to just see if we can find an opportunity that opens it up to more people than just whoever can attend Thursday morning at 9 o'clock at the senior center.
I like that idea actually, because originally I was the same thing. I can't get to them, it's too early. And I actually spoke to residents before, not everyone shows up because they can't. So, and as someone who didn't think before I was elected that I could go to them because I wasn't a senior, That is a true statement. So I think doing that would open it because we can do different days, different times. That means anybody's schedule should be able to fit something.
Yeah. So even if it's a lunch hour somewhere or an evening hour, I know the library said, hey, they've got space. I don't know, can you hear me? Am I too far away? The library said, hey, they're open till 8. They have space. We could do them there occasionally. Like, those are opportunities for us. We could go to different places in town, and even for someone who can get to the senior center but can't get to other places, keep things at the senior center. Maybe they can't get to something on the other side of town. Maybe location, not just is it open to me, but proximity is a
No, I
question
think
as well.
that's a good idea because different places are different comfort zones for others. So they can go to wherever they feel most comfortable attending.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good idea.
Awesome. Well, I think, if we do that, I would like to ask the 4 of us to, as we, if that's something that we try to do, I'd like to ask the 4 of us to say, okay, let's look at our individual schedules and how we can set these up, and then commit to all of having each one of those office hours attended by at least one of us. So we know that there is someone from town council or from this subcommittee that is there, right? So that we're not like, okay, well, we're going to do it, Wednesday at 6, and then no one is there, and maybe people show up. So
Right, yeah, that would not be a good thing.
I don't want to do that. So I think if we can get a calendar of additional times, we just have to make sure that the 4 of us at least are able to kind of say, all right, which days and times work for me, and I will commit to being at these ones so that we have coverage for all those, so that there's someone to talk to whoever shows up for those.
I think that's good. We could do that.
Let's see, did I have, I know that Liz is working on social media guidelines for the town, right? Like, I'm sure that eventually we will see that. Like I said, I'd like to get us to a place where we're able to engage with people, but we don't feel like we are, am I speaking out of turn? Because am I sharing what is my opinion? My opinion. We also want to make sure that we're not sharing anything that's not, I was thinking about, I think the example I used before was we're talking about having that tax rate workshop in the future, right? And so some people feel that we should have a split tax rate, some people feel that we shouldn't. That's one of those things where I'd like to make sure that when that conversation is happening on social media, we're careful that we're not we should definitely do this, and then have to go, well, wait a second, we haven't actually made a policy, we haven't actually said what's going to happen. So I know that those social media guidelines that Liz is working on that will eventually get rolled out, I think will help us. And as I said, I think the other half of this is kind of that community engagement. I think all of you have touched on that in your goals and ideas and suggestions. I know I threw this out at the end of last year after the election, and I don't think it got a lot of momentum at the time, which is fine. And I'm not saying that this is something we have to do, but if we did some kind of just civic engagement, right? I think at the time I had suggested doing, maybe once a quarter, some kind of opportunity for the town council to kind of go into local, maybe nonprofits, like the food pantry or to Safe Coalition, and do some kind of shift there, just to get out and kind of get us away from being behind the desks and actually out into the community. I'm not saying that that is something that we have to do or should do, but I like that idea of or that way of sort of thinking outside the box of how do we get out there and engage so that people do see that our top priority is to improve our town, right? Is to improve Franklin and the lives of the people who live here. And how are we doing that? That's not just sitting behind a desk talking into a microphone.
Well, I agree with you on that on a lot of levels, because I'm working towards meeting with every department head and Safe Coalition. I will eventually get to the food pantry, because if you are as counselors, we're going to be sitting here dealing with the budget, figuring out what best works and how we can fix or better the town. It's hard to do that if you don't understand all of the ongoings in all the different areas. It's easier to say, well, they said this is what they need, and yes, I agree, or no, I don't. But if you can understand, even if you don't agree, if you understand why, certain things might be easier to accept. If you understand why and you do agree, then obviously it's a win-win and you don't have to worry about it. But I think that we do need to be engaged with all the areas within the town, schools, whole 9 yards, food pantry, because it's also how we're going to meet people that we're not necessarily going to meet. On that, I wanted to ask a question. I know we have the Facebook and the newsletters, but what do we have to get information to people that are not literally online, on social media, old school people who don't believe in doing any of this? They're like the pen and paper type people. I make phone calls, I write checks. Do we have anything that goes out to households in the house? Is there something that we could put together with some maybe information that every quarter we send out, a property tax or a water bill? Is there an insert that we can maybe put in there to like give them general information? And if they're not online people, you can do this to get this kind of information, because we have to reach those people too. It's not just the people on social media.
I agree, absolutely. Sorry, I was just agreeing, and I saw you raising your hand.
Sorry. Yes.
I just want kind of. So actually, I talked to someone from the senior center who actually asked if they could have either the newsletter or the budget book at the library at the senior center. So being able to post our materials at the libraries and at the senior center, I think might be another way to get that information out there to people who aren't online folks. As well as just having it available to lend if it's like a big copy of something. I don't know if the library has a good printing budget, but being able to have someone print it and bring it there if it's something that's not necessarily time sensitive. I also want to point out that I've heard, as counselors, we're getting emails. All 9 of us get the same email, and we're trying to juggle like who should respond to it, and we have like 9 people responding at once. I was wondering if there was a way we can set up a form so that, like, let's say it's a DPW issue that's not on the agenda, then maybe Counselor A would deal with it, or if it's a senior center issue, Counselor B will deal with it. So different counselors have different responsibilities for different things, and then if people are not satisfied with that, then they can go to the whole council. So being able to have a point person for certain issues so that it's not just everyone responding at once. I do think if it is on the agenda, it is appropriate to notify all 9 people. But if it's a particular issue that can be solved sort of administratively, or even just encouraging people to just go straight to Jamie first before they go to the council, because sometimes they just skip that step, and we're just going to refer it to Jamie anyway. So being able to establish sort of that. That might help with the and actually, to be honest, all the counselors talk about getting lots and lots of emails. I found it manageable, so I haven't found it too crazy, but except for when we have like certain issues that are hot topics.
Wait one second. Gene, were you trying to say something?
I was just going to say that maybe we can designate who's going to answer the public can send it in to all 9 of us, but we can say who's going to answer those topics. In other words, maybe we can handle it that way and say, okay, yeah, if it's a budget issue, so-and-so will handle it, or maybe we pick 2 counselors to answer those types of emails. Like, do it that way rather than expect the public to just funnel their email to the right town council member.
Yeah, I think, or Jane, all right, Jane, what's your...
I'm gonna have to say I'm playing the devil's advocate. If a resident takes the time to email 9 counselors, they should get a response from 9 counselors. Even if you don't have the answer, and I've done this before, I forward it, thank you for your email, taking the time to reach out. They deserve the respect to get the answer back. And I would tell them, I am forwarding this, I'm copying the town administrator, or I'm copying this person on the email because I'm not really sure where to direct you. And I've done that. I think that if we go into doing it that way, which I understand the point in the process, but what you're gonna have is the same thing that we listen to countless times, that I email the entire council and only maybe one person gets back to me. If they are emailing 9 people, they should at least get a response back from each person, even if it is, thank you for your email, I'm going to forward this to so-and-so so you can get the correct information. Now you are part of that paper chain, and as someone who used to email all the time, it's important for that paper chain, and they feel heard. The biggest problem we had with the last council was nobody listens, nobody answers their emails, nobody gets back to us, and then they go to the meetings and this and this happens, and I still don't have a response. I am not looking to repeat that, so I personally will respond to every email. And even if it takes me a week because all of a sudden I got flooded with 100 emails, I just apologize for the delay, but I'm responding now and I do what I can. I think if we do that, we're going to be biting our nose off to spite our face. And I don't think that would be a good look for the council. I don't think it would be a good fit for the residents, and I think you will see people very upset that they're not getting a response, only from 1 or 2 select people.
All right, I agree. But I see both sides of it, right? Because we also have the problem of, and this is like not just in the specific instance of emails, but like this is like a psychology phenomenon, right? Where if 10 people watch a car accident happen, then everyone's going to assume that someone else is calling the police to make sure. So I feel like if you have 9 people getting an email response and you're sitting there like, I don't know the answer, but someone else will, they all sit back. I kind of like the idea of, saying, okay, I have responsibility for making sure to connect on these couple things, even if it's, hey, I got an email that is not my responsibility, or I'm not that like town council liaison for that subject or whatever, and I say, hey, I think Jane's gonna capture this one because she's talking to whoever about this, right? Like that's her role to connect on this topic.
Exactly. I think it's in the communication, right? You just, the person who's communicating would say, well, I'm communicating on behalf of the entire town council. I know you sent this to everyone, but just so that you get a single, answer, I'm going to answer on behalf of everyone else. And that would, explain it to people. I think when they're just trying to, like you say, Jane, they're trying to be heard, but I don't think they need to hear from 9. I know in my cases where I would send something to the entire town council. I didn't need to hear from everybody. I just wanted to hear an answer. If somebody said to me, well, I'm answering on behalf of the town council, that would have satisfied.
No, and I get that, Gene. I think where I'm coming from is I've listened to people who said I sent an email to every counselor and only 2 of them replied, or I sent an email to all counselors and I only got 3 replies, or I got no replies. So like I do understand the process of why this would be something you want to do, but for me personally, I can't not answer an email. I just can't, because if I don't answer and I at least thank them for sending it in, then I feel like I've ignored them, and that's not okay with me because I ran on the idea that I was not going to do that. So for me, if you guys want to do something like that's fine. I will personally be responding to every email though, because I can't just walk away from one of them. Even if I assume somebody else is going to do it, and to say I'm going to reply on behalf of council, we could be opening up violations to open meeting laws. I'm not really sure. I don't know if we can reply on behalf of the entire council. I think the only one that can actually do that would be the chair, which would then put the chair in the responsibility to answer all the emails. So while I get the theory, I just think that it's going to backfire. And again, bottom line is we ran on, if you reach out to us, we're going to answer you. And if they send it to 9 people, they're expecting at least 9 people to reach back. I've gotten emails where I'm the only one they sent it to. And that's fine, but every email gets something, even if it's just a quick blurb, because they want to know that you're listening to them. And if I'm answering and you don't, then as far as they're concerned, you've ignored them. That's just like I said, if that's what you guys want to do, you're more than welcome to, and I'll support you, but I will answer every email that comes into my inbox.
That's fair. Max?
So I think the advantage of having it be on the forum rather on the counselors, like, this person specializes in these issues, this person specializes in these issues, then it's the citizen's choice as to whether they want to direct it to just that person or all of them. But the other thing is, we've kind of opened this up now. This is just general discussion on committee goals. So we can put this on a future agenda item and talk about it later.
Yeah.
We don't have to decide this tonight or today. No, it's not night. It's afternoon. So we can keep brainstorming other stuff and maybe come back to this. But I think that it's a good discussion, and maybe and maybe it's not even much of a problem. I just know I hear people in the senior center talking about wanting precincts. Based representation, because they feel like they're not being represented by the at-large system. And so I'm trying to propose this as a way to address that without actually going to that system. Because I do think that there is a concern of the community around that, because otherwise they wouldn't be talking about the need for precincts and wards.
Well, and it's a good point. I think, when I met with Liz, we even talked about like an email system, like how do we make sure that people are, if they have concerns, they're sending it and they're getting a response. Because again, you run the risk of 9 people. I know when I emailed in earlier years, emailing 9 people, and the one response I got was, "Thanks for your email." And it's like, all right, well, you didn't really answer anything, but I'm glad someone at least acknowledged that they got it, right? But to make sure that that's not happening. So, to Jane's point, hey, thanks, I got this, I'll look into it, or I'll send it off to someone. But how do we make sure that there is that follow-up? So I can see both sides of this, and I think, Max, I think you're right. I think this is a conversation we can have for another time. It's at least worth something, figuring out what is the best way to make sure that people are being heard and responded to. And whether it is just, okay, all 9 people need to make sure that they are sending a response back, then maybe that's it. Or maybe it's, hey, here's how you reach out to all 9 counselors, but if you have this specific topic, you can go here. I think we can dig into that at another time. I think it's worth a conversation.
We can list it like that, because that gives the resident the choice to contact all 9 or someone specific. And if they choose to just someone specific, that's great, because then that person can respond. But if they ultimately choose all 9, they should at least be acknowledged. And like I said, and I've done this a few times, I'm forwarding your information over to the town administrator. I'm not 100%, but I want you to know I've read your email, it was heard, and we're gonna follow up and see if we can get you an answer. And then Jamie usually does respond, and then the paper trail is there. So I just think if, like I said, I've had people that said they just reached out to me specifically. I was the only one in the email. That's great. So we can put it up and do something like that, but I still think that if every one of us are put on the email, we should all acknowledge that email.
I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I think we agree. Yeah, so have the specialty, but you can still choose everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're good.
I think, because I think to the precincts and the at-large, because I remember the precincts, the goal is to make them feel comfortable with the at-large, because to go back to precincts could be a nightmare. So our goal is to get the residents comfortable with having an at-large council and feeling that they have 9 people they can go to, regardless of the situation. And if they come to any one of us, we're going to be there to help them, or at least steer them to the person that can. I think that is our goal, is to make them feel the comfortability that they have not felt, because they have felt ignored for so long.
I think that's a great point. I feel like we did just kind of solve it, despite saying we were going to try to solve it another time. I would like to kind of bring up that topic to the town council, maybe at our next meeting, as when we talk about our subcommittee reports, saying this is something that we had talked about. Are you guys comfortable with that, saying this is a suggestion that we had?
The only thing is you'd have to figure out who would have what specialty. I assume maybe the joint budget or the budget subcommittee chair would be, budget, or, you'd have someone to DPW. Yeah. You'd have to figure out how you divvy that up. But I think as long as and you still have that as a specialty, and you can still choose everyone if you want to do everyone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I would bring it up to the town council and say, like, hey, this is our suggestion that came out of this meeting, and then working with Liz and Julie and Jamie, go, okay, what are the different topics that we should be, finding the right liaisons for, and how do we do this if that is something that the whole town council wants to do. I don't think we need to divide everything up until the town council actually says that they're okay with that.
Right, the whole council would have to agree and approve.
Yeah.
And then if they do, then we could have something where then we sit and figure that part out.
Yeah.
If I could just say a couple things, I wanted to just echo too that I'm listening to all of your ideas for the different goals of this subcommittee, and it seems like we all feel the same way. And in my role as like the community engagement and communications director, I feel like I want to like echo a lot of what Jane said about strengthening like transparency and trust with our community, and not only with just residents, but also like reaching out to those different audiences and like making sure like doing what we need to get like where you're saying, Caroline, like meet people where they are and making sure they're getting the right information at the right time. And I think also to your point with the email situation, I think the more that you guys, if you do decide, part of one of these goals for the subcommittee is to expand like office hours and getting more communications out there, and for you guys to be available as town councilors, and make yourself kind of give different platforms to be available for residents is going to also probably help. Hopefully you'll have maybe less inquiries via email, because you'll be available in the public spaces of the town, that you'll be able to answer those people's questions there. And I just want to echo that the increasing community engagement, surveys, and creating that kind of two-way dialogue that you were talking about, Jane, of like opening up and being able to streamline our communications, but also giving residents a platform to get, contact us. And it goes to also like the, putting things in hard copy so that, people that are older or not on online, the bill inserts, I think that's a great idea as well. Like there's a lot of great ideas that you guys have, and I just wanted to echo that. So we're, in addition to like, just increasing community engagement, but also improving the accessibility and inclusion that we have for getting these communications out there, I think is great. So I'm looking forward to it. I feel like we have a lot of goals that you guys really touched upon. So
yeah, thank you, Liz.
Exciting.
In terms of one of the goals I mentioned was trying to have a school committee representative from the Public Relations Committee. I just think that would be, because we're starting this process now, it's having come to future meetings, we probably want to move that up as a goal. So I don't know if we want to put it on the next agenda, or if we just want to have the chair of the council appoint a representative, or how that would work. But I think that if it's something that this subcommittee wants, it should be moved on earlier.
Yeah, so are you thinking we would we'd name someone from our committee to the school committee and have them attend school committee meetings, and then ask them to reciprocate, like, or at least the communications?
We could do that. I was thinking having the chair of the school committee, Public Relations Committee, just serve as a member of this committee.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if maybe even with voting privileges. I don't know if that's something that we would even want, or if we would want them to not have voting privileges. But I just thought that, considering we're looking at the whole town and they're part of the whole town, maybe it would be helpful to have that.
I think, I don't know, is this, maybe we should just sit here now and like hash this out.
I think for right now, I think we need to figure out where we're going before we invite anybody else in. Once we have a direction, I think what we should do is, yes, I agree, maybe have hate to say it, but like joint communication subcommittee meetings. So if we're doing, how many of these meetings are we having a month typically?
These meetings, I mean, I would imagine one a month.
Okay, so if we did like one a month and then maybe every other month did like a joint, where we bring in the school sub-budget,
Communications.
thank you, and we kind of collaborate. I think we could do that. I think because everything they're doing is to communicate through the schools, and what we're trying to do has to be approved by the council. So I think we have to both take separate roads but then meet, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I think that we should be apart, but I think we need to get our feet wet first and get our structure set up before we can invite other people in to do that, because we can't help them with the school issues if we can't fix our own communication issues.
I agree with Jane. I think that we should wait until we have kind of figured out our goals for the group in general, and then what our plans are before we start adding people to join our committee.
But it is a public meeting, so they're more than welcome to come and listen and join, and we can still go to those 100%. I just think if we try to bring people in too soon, we could discombobulate what we're trying to do, and it could cause more confusion. Because right now we're trying to communicate as a town and get everybody up to speed on everything and trust us. And I think this is where we have to start. They should join if they want to join though. And then we can look at doing some joint ones. If there's issues that the schools are trying to communicate and the town's trying to communicate and it's a joint issue, those are where we would join together and try to get the information out.
I agree, and for what it's worth, it might not just be the schools that we want to be, making sure that we are bringing into these conversations, right? There are so many different departments across town, and I know that there are communications people in all of them, and they are doing a great job. But if we are saying, like, as a town, what are we trying to address? What are we trying to communicate? It might be that it's not just naming someone from the school committee, but
Right.
like making sure that we are opening it up and reaching out to the people in the different departments and saying, hey, this is when we're meeting. We'd love to hear from you if you have something you want to share.
Could I suggest that we, as we recombobulate, we reach out to the school committee to see what they want, because we don't even know if they want this.
Right.
As well as I know you said each of the departments have their own sort of communications person. Maybe getting their feedback is what they want to see from the committee as well, as to whether they want to come, whether they want to have a stake. Then maybe that would be helpful as well. So.
Yeah, I think so. I think Liz, you and I
think that was kind of a plan for the next subcommittee meeting that we're going to have, is to have a member from each of the departments that handle communications for the department to come, so that we can all hear what it is that they do, how they're currently communicating, if there are any gaps that we need to kind of address, and then also could help with our communication goals for the subcommittee. So I think that we're all on the same page with that.
Can the schools be included in that department as well?
Well, their department, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if they were specifically called out in that planning. I'm not sure how far that planning has gone either, because I met with one of the departments the other day, and I was like, oh, I think the idea for our next meeting, and which, by the way, we are tentatively scheduled for May 28th, right?
Yes.
Is to have communications people, and this department was like, oh, I don't think we've heard anything about that yet. So I don't know how far that has gone. But I think as we do that, I agree, bringing in the school, making sure that we have someone not just from the schools, right? Because the schools themselves have communications people, but also
other departments.
Yeah, well, and also the school committee, right? Because they do have, to your point, they have communications people as well. So just making sure that they are both engaged with for that meeting too. Thank you. Gene, any thoughts on this or anything you want to share? I can't see you, so I'm just going to have to speak into the void.
No, I mean, everything you've said, I agree with. So, the next agenda, bringing other folks in from departments and everything to talk about that. Yeah, I'm totally on board with that.
All right, excellent. So the last thing I was going to say was about May 28th. So thank you, Liz, for reading my mind and getting that out there. Does anyone have anything that we haven't touched on, or any other thoughts that have come to mind that they want to share before we wrap up? Because we're like right on time. We're doing well.
Is there anything, we have a whole list, partially, apologize, but
No.
Is there anything we want to prioritize, like over the others? Is there anything we want to do first or do later?
Well, I think we said talking about the liaisons for email conversation should come up. I think exploring office hours, additional office hours should be a priority.
I think that should be probably the first priority, because that's going to be the one that sets us up to be out there and actually talking to people. And then if
It
we
gets
can,
us that feedback, right?
if we can get that going, then as we start doing other things, when we're doing the office hours, we can explain that to people.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, we're going to have all these things set up, but we have no way to tell them.
Yeah. And some of the other things that were brought up, I think I think we have some really good suggestions. I think some of them are things that can be built kind of alongside some of these other things, right? Like your big book of savings, right? I think that's a phenomenal idea. Making sure that there's something that's easy access for people who are like, okay, what is out there? Do I qualify? And how do I access that? An FAQ page, again, is something that can be built while we're working on some of these other things. But yeah, I think the first thing is.
I really liked your idea with the short videos, short instructional, like how do we communicate like what 2.5, what Prop 2.5 is, something like that. Like getting something like just short, instructive or educational videos. That's something I guess we could work on, because it's going to take a little time to like figure out the best format or something like that. But we can work on that on our own on the side, and then bring it back to the group and say, hey, look, this is something that maybe we can use as a vehicle to communicate.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean we can definitely explore that. I think that those can either be like a just-in-time kind of thing, like, hey, this is a topic that's coming up, or something, this is a hot-button issue right now, and we can get something. Or it can be, we kind of create a little library that exists somewhere on the town website, right? So that these are things, kind of along with your FAQ page, these are things that come up frequently that we can point back to. Then the one other thing that I personally would like to see, especially because I've asked Liz to work on it, is maybe kind of having that template of like, here, post town council meeting, here's something that we can just fill out really quickly with kind of the highlights, put the links in, and have it something that can be dropped into conversations as people are, where those conversations are happening, and say like, hey, we actually talked about this. So you don't have to look through the whole 4 hours, because it's right here at 1 hour 32 or whatever, and here's the link. But so I'd love to hear what you all think about something like that.
Well, I just wanted to acknowledge Franklin TV is joining us today,
Yes.
and the good work that they're doing in terms of communication. That we have 3 folks from TV here today, so that's great. But if we wanted to do the short videos, could we use Franklin TV to actually record them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful.
So that would help us a lot. And then just any way we could work with Franklin TV and Franklin Matters more, while also respecting our own sort of town sovereignty or whatever. I don't know how that works, but I think they're a great resource.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, I hope you all don't feel like I was, whether stepping on your toes or denigrating, because I think that the information that you all put out is incredible, and I think it's just a matter of like, I follow the Franklin Matters page, I follow Franklin TV, but those aren't necessarily the things that pop up in my feed first when I log into any of these social media sites, right? So it's a matter of kind of taking that and saying, okay, so if those things aren't popping up, or if those are not pieces that are being put into those conversations, how do we, kind of attack it from all different angles? That was my thought. Any thought on that? Or
The videos?
well, or the little blurb afterwards. Is this something to like pursue, or is this a waste of
No, I
time
think
or
that's a
energy?
good
I don't
idea. It would be kind of like a standard almost thing, but gives them the information. The only thing I would say, and trust me, I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate on everything, is we don't want to cross an area where we become clinical.
Right.
I guess that's the best terminology. People come to us for personal conversations. Personal, like, talk to me like a human being and give me this stuff. So for me, I don't want it to be like a standard form robot, here you go, boom. And then it's like, then we're gonna get to the point where people are gonna be like, every time we ask a question, we get the same form. And you're gonna end up being, okay, yep, they're rubber stamping everything, okay, yep, they're not really paying attention, it's just factory answers. And I think one of the reasons we were elected is because we took and had those types of conversations, even on Facebook. They were in our words, our personalities, our temperaments, conveying information to them. I think it would be good because we'll make sure the information is accurate, not changing. But I think we just have to be very careful on how we portray it, because I don't want to come off as like this is a factory response.
And I agree, and I actually, I don't necessarily mean that should replace any of those conversations, but I can't speak to anyone else's experience, but I know that there are people who will say something on social media and I'll respond, who will, be happy to have that engagement, and then there are people who say, as a town councilor, you're not allowed to speak.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's not true, and we know that's not true, but it's because they don't want to hear from me. And so having something where like, I can answer your question. I know you don't want to hear, like, here is something I can point
Right.
to and just say like, okay, here's something. And if they choose to engage with me further, like, great.
So it would be like a format basically saying like, we'll just talk with the budgets because that's what's coming up, so we all know that's what's going to be the topic. The FY27 budget, whatever, boom. We talked about that particular topic at this meeting. Here's the link to that meeting if you want to follow through.
And here's the kind of the highlights. Here's like, kind of like when we do the counselor quarterbacking things, like really like high level highlights. Here's kind of what that came out of that conversation. I had a conversation with the department the other day, and I was like, well, maybe there's a second page to this where it's like, hey, let's spotlight some other department or things like that have things going on. I mean, it could just, and in my head and in the conversation with Liz, I kind of said, well, maybe it's a PDF that can be turned into an image, so like it can just be dropped into a Facebook conversation or something, so people can pull it up and see this.
So they can see this information, but then if they want further discussion.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Okay.
It can be hey, here's what was talked about here, like, well, and then the conversation can grow out of it. Okay, hey, you said this, and it can.
Okay.
I just want to say it wouldn't be a picture, just because it wouldn't be like
Yeah, links
ADA
wouldn't.
accessible, or compliant. So it would be like a link to a PDF that would live on the website, and you can just give them the link and be like, hey, here's all the information that we, if you don't want to watch a 4-hour meeting, this is all the highlights, high-level highlights from that meeting, or whatever.
I mean, could we do both? Because I have a feeling like if I just give them a link, you might get some people who click on it, and some people are like, I'll look at the image that's there. If we can say like, hey, here's a link to where it lives on the website, here's a snapshot of the one pager, so people can look at it and follow the link if they want to.
I think when you post a link anyway, it kind of pops up with that like little photo
That's
a
fair.
preview of
Yeah, it does.
whatever the document is, or the link to the website or whatever it is. So I think you'll be fine, but we can look into that.
Yeah,
and
we
see
can
if
test it, see what it
Are we
looks like.
talking about on the Franklin Town website, the links?
The links will live on the town website because the town's website is the official source of information. That's kind of what we want to drive people to know, is like, this is where you find the factual information, not on the community pages and things like that.
Okay, and are we gonna have like a specific communications page that will have those links on them? Because I'm telling you right now, trying to find stuff on the
Yeah.
Franklin Town website is really, really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do like a little nav on the nav part of the left-hand navigation side of the town council page. You can literally put like a link there that says like, you know, the highlights or whatever. We can also put it, I think utilizing Notify Me too is really important, where you can sign up for alerts and notifications and emails from the different town departments, and just you can get like a news flash sent to your email. So it'll be like, here's information sent right to your email. So you can actually create a category on the town's website where people can sign up to subscribe to those emails too. We can send them out after the meeting took place, and then you guys can write up the highlights, and it can also be sent out via email to people too. They can have their own space to live on the website, and we can make it easy enough where there's just a link on the left-hand navigation of the town council page, so that people know this is where you find it. And we can make a little video or something like that too that can show, if you're looking for information from meetings, you can do a quick little reel or something like that and post that on social media, so it shows exactly how to navigate to that and find it and get all the information. So
Okay.
The idea is to make it
There
easier
are
for
plenty
people
of
to find
ways.
things and to have those conversations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, going on, if you type in, FY26 budget, there's so many links that pop up, and 9 times out of 10, it's the last one I click on. And it's by then I'm like, okay, I'm tired. So like, it's not as user friendly as I like to see it. If you're on the website all the time, you can probably mindlessly click at where you need to go and not think too much of it. But if you're not on there all the time, it's a nightmare.
I think that could be another communication goal, is to streamline website communications, making sure that things are easier to find, archiving other things or whatever it may be, and
Include that in the survey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
People's
there-
feedback
Right.
on what's lacking on the website or what could be improved.
Yeah.
That would be good, yep.
Max?
So in terms of the meetings, I mean, we're tackling a lot of the older demographic and a lot of younger demographics on Instagram.
Yeah.
So those stories, those 1-minute stories would fit in a
Right.
Instagram story. Just don't expect me to do a TikTok dance. I'm not doing it.
You say that now. We'll get you next.
Is there any way to, I was curious if you had any analytics for the website, if you have a link tracking analytic, is it legal?
I'm in conversation with the IT director, and I'm waiting for a report for the analytics. That's going to be part of the communication strategy and plan that I'm
Ooh,
developing.
nice.
So the best way for me to know how the town and how our communications are doing, and how well we're reaching different audiences, is to track and use benchmarking and use those metrics to analyze the sentiments. So I'm in the process of getting that underway, but yeah, it's a work in progress right now.
And the other thing is, I know Steve Sherlock's going to kill me for this one, but there's a lot of development, and I don't think they're ready for prime time either, but of AI agents that you have like a database of information, they'll pull that information when people have a query. Is that something that the town could look into when prices come down or once it matures?
In what regard to the website?
Yeah,
Or-
so if someone has a question, they could ask a chatbot, hey, I'm curious about this question, tell me about the budget for this amount. How much is the budget for the school committee? And it'll come up with an answer. But you have to be careful because it needs to be accurate information.
So I don't have that information right now, but I can look into it. I can
Yeah.
ask and see
Yeah,
if
I think
can
it
talk
might
to
be-
IT and
yeah.
talk to Civic Plus and see if that's a possibility.
Like right now, it might be a little bit more than we're willing to pay, but I just think in the future, when prices come down, maybe it's something we could explore.
Excellent. So it's not on the agenda, but since it is a public meeting, is there anyone, I can't tell, is there anyone who is online who looks like they want to participate or comment, or anyone?
No, there's no one online.
Okay, I didn't think so, but thought I would throw it out there. Anyone in the room who wants to say something? We can turn around our microphone because there isn't one anywhere else.
I can speak loud enough. A couple of things came to mind during the course
Name
of
and
the
address.
discussion.
Name and address, Steve.
Yeah, I think I know that. Steve Sherlock, Community Information Director, Franklin Matters, Franklin Public Radio, 13 Magnolia Drive here in Franklin. Liz probably is already including it in the social media policy, but your town council procedures manual effectively covers most of that. It's just not specifically to social media stuff.
Okay.
But in many cases, and the line clearly says, in any communications, a counselor should not represent he or she as speaking for the council. And that effectively is a social media policy, but it's already in the procedures manual. So she doesn't need to rewrite things to that extent. Without educating you, you should also memorize that, because that effectively guides all your communications and avoids problems. There is a dead link, dead to the extent that hasn't been used in years, of council action items, which used to have a completion of what action items came out of each of the meetings. The link still is on at least some of the pages. That could get reutilized if you did kind of do that short summary, which I effectively do on the next day anyway. So
Right.
that's another piece that's already there, could get repositioned. Use of the website, clearly, getting some feedback on it, but then better understanding tips and tricks as to how to get around. You as counselors should be in a position to help people. And I know Liz will probably have it on her plate. I'll do shared trips and trips myself because I'm heavily using it on a regular basis. The notification pieces, for example, it's good to have, but if a new committee and/or action starts, you have to then go and subscribe to that. There's no place yet that I've found that you can say, subscribe to me everything and get everything.
You have to, sorry.
Because every time I go in, there's something new, and I've got 3 different emails, and I've checked every single one every time I go in. Every time I go back, there's something new there, and I have to check that in order to get it. So that's kind of a best practice. It's a painful one, but if you don't know that, then people are not, you're going to miss set expectations. Clearly, the other piece, you've referenced hard copy in appropriate places, because there are non-digital folks in the world, and far more of them than we think or would like to think there are. The other piece is, from a communications perspective, this is a Sisyphean task. 81% of the people from major surveys do not follow local government issues, which is why we only get a 20% turnout, give or take, on a local election. Oh yeah, we get 40, 45 on a dollar election because money matters, but you can't make money every single topic. You can, but then it stretches it and you just lose the advantage of that purple cow influence. So we're here to help. We're, because I'm including TV and radio. It's what we do. We're still learning our own best practices. We're evolving as we do this. And we're here to help because it's our issue of town business, school business, town organization. People need to know what we do, what you do, what everybody other department does. And there's really, as far as I can see, maybe 6 departments that are heavy communicators. Respectfully, some of the others, once a year, if that. So kudos to you for starting. We're here to help, and hopefully we'll make some progress, because we need some metrics in order to figure out where we go.
Thank you. Quick question. Because this is a new committee, and because most people don't really know we have it, on the Franklin Town page, once this is all set up, can the YouTube link just be put there and just say first communications subcommittee meeting with the link to the video?
On the website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, because if people see it, they might click on it, what is it? And it might make them want to pay attention to like the next meeting or actually reach out about it by the time they know about it. You know what I mean? If we can start doing that right now, because we don't want to have an empty Zoom.
Yeah,
I mean,
like including a carousel of important things. Or
Yeah.
I would just like to not be, I don't want to be biased and only put on the communications subcommittee meeting. I want to put every subcommittee meeting and make sure that the link is there, so it's a,
Oh, that's
not just, So they're already, the communications, the YouTube is already on, like, I usually post it as a link when there is a meeting on social media, and but you're saying on the website you want to have it posted, the recording?
At least for the first one. And again, if you do it for all the other subcommittees, have at it, no problems.
Jane, do you mean like on the news flash, where you're on the website and it has like the current topics that have
No,
been
like on
discussed?
Facebook.
Yeah, I can do it on social media, that's no problem.
That, but like what I'm saying is on Facebook, like, and even for the other subcommittees, maybe their first meetings, you can post like, this is the first one for this subcommittee, here's the link. You know, if you want to follow, you can subscribe to get notified for future meetings on the town website, that type of thing, just to get it known that we're here. And that way we can maybe get people to start reaching out, tuning in, even if they're not coming or sitting on Zoom, they might watch it later on, and then we might get flooded with some emails, but like the goal is to get that to happen. And if they're not aware that what we're doing or why we're doing it, they're not gonna watch it.
That can also
So-
fall to us, like, right? We should be at the communication subcommittee, we should be able to communicate that we're having a meeting and what it's for too.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think if we can get at least publicized, like at least the initial one, it just helps jumpstart that.
Max?
Actually, I wanted to build off James' comment because she gave me a good idea. Right now, the YouTube links, after the meeting has happened, is not posted on the Agenda Center. Is that correct? So is it possible for us to post the YouTube links when we upload the minutes, either on the minutes themselves or actually on a separate link on the Agenda Center for each meeting, all the meetings that are recorded?
Actually, yes, that is something that we plan to do, is put links to the YouTube recordings on all the minutes.
Okay.
Good. I love
We're
that.
still rolling out that,
Okay.
and because different entities do the minutes for different meetings and committees, so we have to kind of get everybody on board with that, but that's the plan.
Okay.
I think the school committee does that right now, right? Like, I think you can pull up their agenda and find the recording, or maybe they have it together but not in the same page, but I think it's easier on their side.
If you really, I don't expect you to do this, please don't do this, but if you really want to get fancy, you could, in the minutes, when someone has a comment, or you could click on the minutes to actually see where in the video that it is, but that's maybe 10 years from now.
That might need an AI, right, Steve?
That requires manual.
Yes.
AI is not going to solve that problem.
A bigger IT department.
All right, if there's nothing else, Gene, anything to add? No? Jane?
No.
All right, I don't see, Gene. Okay, then I think that we are, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay.
roll call.
Yeah, that's right, we have to roll call who's Gene. Gene, we'll start with you. Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, wait, did you, wait, all right, so hang on. Did you have something you wanted to say while you were on mute? That
No,
we
I
missed?
didn't. I didn't. I just wanted to say I didn't have anything to say.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. All right, so we got yes from Gene, yes from Jane, Max?
Yes.
And me, yes. All right, concludes our first meeting. Thank you, everyone.
We are now producing this in collaboration with Franklin TV and Franklin Public Radio. This podcast is my public service effort for Franklin, but we can't do it alone. We can always use your help. How can you help? If you can use the information that you find here, please tell your friends and neighbors. If you don't like something here, please let me know. Through this feedback loop, we can continue to make improvements. And I thank you for listening. For additional information, please visit franklinmatters.org. If you have questions or comments, you can reach me directly at suresteve@gmail.com. The music for the intro and exit was provided by Michael Clark and the group East of Shirley. The piece is titled Ernesto Mañana, copyright Michael Clark and Tintype Tunes in 2008, and used with their permission. I hope you enjoy. By the way, you can also subscribe and listen to Franklin Matters Radio on your favorite podcast app. Search in podcasts for Franklin